Hello and welcome to this episode of Trash to Track. In this episode, we're going to do something a bit different, and we're going to be rebuilding the Trash to Track turntable as it gave up the ghost during the last episode. You can hear now the screeching noise it started to make whilst filming the Jubilee episode a few months back. It doesn't sound very healthy and it was quite juddery, and then this made it into this high-pitched screeching noise. And then it gave up the ghost altogether when we did the Western finale. So it's time now to strip the whole thing back and make it better. I had to hand turn this in the last episode, as many of you would have seen, because the motor and gearing just went out of sync and wouldn't work at all. Considering I only knocked this up for the first episode and as a one-off, I don't think it's done too bad. It was never my intention to put it in every episode, but it seems to be a good part of the show, and I've had a lot of feedback that people quite like it. So I've taken it apart, and this is the motor and gearbox, and what had happened is these gear spindles had worked their way up and the gears were not meshing properly with the one on the motor and the one on the shaft that allows the table to spin. So I had to tap these back in gently with a ball peen hammer, as they had worked out loose and I couldn't push them back in with finger pressure alone. Once they were tapped back in, I attached the power leads from an old controller, and then you can see there that all the gears are meshing correctly and they should turn the table. However, they are very dry and it's very noisy. There is no lubrication on these at all. I'm now going to put in the shaft that contains the drive cog and the shaft that turns the actual table itself. This is held in place by this metal spring piece. This is a Pico motor and gearbox that is specially designed for their own turntables. Once that clips in place, I just give it another turn with the power to make sure that all the gears are meshing up. And as you can see there, they are all turning, including the big shaft that turns the table itself. By putting some gentle pressure on, I can feel that there is plenty of torque in the motor, so we shouldn't have any issues. A dry run assembly with the table pushed in and not glued shows that it will turn it. So it was just a case of the gears becoming unmeshed. To try and alleviate some of the noise and to lubricate the gears up, I'm going to give them a liberal coating of this silicone grease. Applying it with a toothpick, I coat every gear surface and all the shafts, just so that when the motor's turning the turntable, there's plenty of lubrication on all the moving parts. It won't do the plastic cogs any good rubbing dry against each other, and it will wear them out quite quickly. Once I've done one side and I've reached in as far as I can with a toothpick, I'll apply some power to the motor to run the gears and spread the lubrication throughout. I do put quite a lot on, as this is going to be pretty much inaccessible once reassembled onto the turntable frame for filming, and I want it to last a long time, so I am putting quite a lot of grease on here, loads more than I would do if I was restoring a locomotive. There's no danger of the grease getting in the motor or ruining any railway track by doing this. And there you can see I'm running the gears just to spread the lubrication around. Now it's time to tackle the actual turntable base itself. The turntable spins quite freely without the motor present, which is good. It proves there's no friction between the turntable pit and the table itself. The turntable, like I said, was built for a one show really, and this lining paper that I painted white on the back is showing signs of rips, tears, and it's getting quite grubby. So I'm going to remove it all. I start by pushing out the turntable well, which wasn't glued in, and then I'm going to remove the Trash to Track logo off the back, which is only applied with blue tack. And upon doing this, you can see that the lining paper also tried to come off. This is going to be a relatively easy takedown, as there's no backing to this, there's just two wooden posts to support the back. This lining paper was applied with small pins, and then it was painted in emulsion just to show white for filming. As like I said, I only ever intended to use this on the first episode. I'm now going to do a proper job, and I'm going to put a back plate on this. Using offcuts of plywood, this part here has a hole in it, but I'm not willing to ruin a new sheet just to get rid of that hole. That'll be handy when moving the turntable around. I fix this to the back post just using 4 screws, one in each corner. As you can see there, using the screwdriver in this cordless drill makes light work of it. Once that's all done, I'm going to coat this in brilliant white poster paper. Now I've cut a sheet to length and I measure it up against the plywood to make sure I've got enough paper, which I have, and you can tell instantly how much more white this looks than the painted lining paper that I had before. This should do well for filming as it will reflect the light better. I'm going to attach this using some border adhesive that I've used in the past, giving the base frame wood a quick clean up with a brush just to remove any loose dirt and debris, and then I go around with the hammer and tap in all the little pins that were holding the lining paper on from before, just so that there's a nice flat surface. As I said, I'm going to use some border adhesive, and I've used this before. This is what I applied all the background for the layout, and in my experience it's been very good stuff. The back scene on the layout is applied to OSB board and some plywood, so I know that it sticks relatively well and wrinkle free. So I apply a liberal amount onto the wood itself and then spread this out with a old paintbrush. This is like a thin version of PVA, and once bonded it does dry extremely strong. So now you can see I've coated all the wood, and here is the white poster paper ready to be mounted. Now I've put it on, and the base there where the turntable well goes has gone on pretty well, but the back has creased quite a lot, which surprised me as I've not come across this before. So flattening the base out with a brush, I then try and flatten out the back plate, but it will not dry without creases. I cannot get this to go level, which is surprising. I've not had this problem with this product before. So once it's all done, I leave it for a while and then think when it dries, the paste and glue might pull the paper in, but this is how it dried. Extremely wrinkly and no good for filming whatsoever. I was surprised at this, as I said, as these are my back scenes and this was put on with the very same product. And as you can see, there is no wrinkles in there at all, and they've gone on flat and nice, and they've been on now for about 18 months. So maybe the border adhesive that I had gone past its best and maybe was a bit too runny. So I've stripped all the paper off again now, we're outside, and I've found some lining paper like I used before, and this is a lot thicker than that poster paper, so I'm going to apply this with a good dollop of strong wallpaper adhesive that I've mixed up. This should hold it in firm, and then I'm going to put the white poster paper over the top of this. Here you can see the lining paper, which looks really white on this film, but in reality is more of a creamy colour, but you can see it's dried quite nice and has created a drum where the turntable well should be. It has dried lovely with no creases at all. This is ready for the top white paper to be applied. We're back in the workshop now, and the top white paper has been applied, although there is a couple of bumps at the top there, but it's stuck on nicely with wallpaper paste, and the new Trash to Track logo is now held on with 4 white drawing pins, as the wallpaper paste just didn't work on that as it was far too thin. That was just standard A4 paper that these are printed on. The hole for the turntable well is there as well, so we're going to now start reassembling everything and giving it a final test. I put the turntable well back in, which is quite a snug fit now. There's 2 layers of thick paper on it, but it sits back in nicely and clips in quite securely. Next to go on is the table itself, just to turn it and make sure that there's no warpage and make sure that it turns freely. As you can see, one of the detail wheels has fallen off there because the axle that holds it in has fallen out and been lost. So I'm going to have to make another one to replace that. But spinning the table proves that it is still true circle and there's no stiff points that's going to stop it from turning. I'm just giving it a test underneath with finger pressure now with the weight of a loco on it, and this is the Triang 31 which donated parts to the 37 we restored in episode 2. This old part of a nail shaft there has been cut down to size using a multi-tool and has been used as an axle for these detail wheels for when the turntable turns round. Putting the wheel in its place and then just sliding the axle in with the help of a pair of long nose pliers, it fits in securely, but I'm going to add a little piece of super glue onto the edge there just to hold it in place so that it doesn't fall out again. These wheels spread the weight and help the table turn on the plastic rail you can see on the bottom there. Whilst the super glue is out, I'm also going to repair one of the handrails on the side of the turntable which has become broken during the restoration of this table. Right, now all the damaged parts have been repaired, I'm going to refix the motor to the crossbeam you can see there, and I've already soldered some power lines to the terminals on the bottom of the motor. Holding it in place, I just use a screw in the existing holes just to hold it in place. Well, then I will turn it onto its side and tighten these up with a screwdriver. The motor and gearbox that Pico provide is nice and compact and will fit most layouts underneath, and it is a simple DC power supply that makes it turn. There you can see just one testing it. Now it's back fitted, so you can see the main shaft is turning, ready to turn the table once it's back in place. Now I'm going to put the turntable well back on, and before this was a push friction fit, but I'm actually going to use a small amount of impact adhesive to hold it in place now, so that I can carry it and move it around without the fear of it falling over. You can see there that I've used some washers just to pad out the motor so that the shaft aligns with the turntable. The power wires are soldered to 2 brass screws that I've put on the leg, and the crocodile clips have been attached to 2 leads from an old controller. Once all connected, you can see now that the turntable spins nicely, nice and free, and the white background makes filming quite nice. I'm going to test it now with the Great Western King class that we unboxed in my last eBay video, and the turntable now looks to be back to its best, ready for filming the new episodes of Trash to Track that are upcoming soon. Using a King class loco is quite good because it is relatively heavy and relatively long, so it spreads the weight across the table. There's no juddery, there's no stop-start issues, but there is still some noise, but that's expected. During the rebuild of this turntable, I actually bought this from the model shop to rob for parts to mend mine, but upon closer inspection it turns out that this turntable here is entirely scratch built from plywood and rails, and it seemed a shame to ruin it by taking it apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore this table in its own right. As you can see there, the carpentry is quite good, and it does look really nice. If you look under the table itself, you can quite clearly see it's made from plywood and wagon wheels, and it's entirely scratch built, and it would be such a shame to take this apart and ruin it just for a Trash to Track turntable. So I'm going to restore this, and I'm going to try and incorporate it in my own layout somewhere. The fencing is all broke, but the guardrails on the table itself are plasticard and plastruck components, so these should be easy to mend. I have all the parts here for the gear. There's the gear to turn the table, and I've got another Pico motor unit with a bigger brass cog on it that fits underneath. So watch out for a future video where I restore this table in its own right and fix it somewhere on my layout. This table is also big enough to turn a Great Western King class, which is one of the longest steam engines that I own. It should look quite good when it's all restored and part of the working layout, so look out for that in a future video. Now we're finished with the turntables, I'm going to take you back several years now and see where Trash to Track began, when I used to restore engines before filming them. This Triang Hornby Hall was found in the bowels of a York antique shop in a junk bin, and as you can see was in a very sorry state, missing its cylinders and paintwork was horrendous. Having repaired the body shell and fitted new cylinders and given it a general clean up, you can see it here in primer, prior to it being outlined in British Railways general purpose black, with Lake Crest on the tender, 3 link couplings, air pipes and a copper cap chimney. This loco was one of my first restorations and still survives on my father's layout. This locomotive I found in a house that was due for demolition, and I had permission to take it away. There was no tender, and as you can see it had been stood on and the cab was horrendously cracked. A lot of the detail parts were broken off and the wheels and buffers were coated in a corrosion of some sort. For the tender, I acquired this mainline standard tender, and I was going to use the chassis from it and a few detail parts, as it's not the correct sort of tender for an IVAT 4MT. Here you can see I'm starting to scratch build a new tender body using photographs and plans I had in 4mm scale for this sort of tender. This was a very complex build. The only parts from the original tender used were the water filler caps, the tender backhead and the chassis as we said. The rest was all scratch built out of plasticard, which at the time I found quite challenging as there was a lot of angles on this tender, and at the time I did this there were no second-hand IVAT tenders on eBay at all. The build progressed quite nicely with using 60 thou plasticard and copious amounts of filler. As you can see there, it fits up quite nicely to the IVAT 4MT. This loco is a proper Barry restoration wreck. From having no tender to being scratch built, and it was maintained, cleaned up, and all the detail parts were either scratch built and then replaced. Here's the tender now, and as you can see, the wheels have been replaced. There is self-adhesive weights underneath. It's had a repaint, real coal, handrails, tender, footsteps, and the body shell was also repaired and repainted as 43050, the local identity at which I found it. Here she is on the turntable now, taking the first spin on the new Trash to Track rebuilt turntable. Thanks for watching this episode of Trash to Track. I know it's been a little bit different, but the next one will see us restoring another loco and normal service will be resumed. If you've liked what you've seen, please like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again in the next one.